Hello, and welcome to Raise the Bar, the Sky High and Fly Jump Camps podcast. I'm your host, Troy Haynes. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with jumping, jump training, jump coaching, psychology, nutrition, flexibility, plyometrics, sprinting, speed, agility, whatever and wherever. We talk with athletes, we talk with coaches, we talk with trainers, and we are just excited to be with you again today. I am. Today's guest, let me do a little send up before he calls in, is a UCLA great, let's say a UCLA legend, Willie Banks. He is a former world record holder in the men's triple jump. He is the current 60-year-old age group world record holder in the high jump at 6 feet. Willie made 3 different Olympic teams in 80, 84, and 88. He did not get to compete in 1980 due to the U.S. Olympic boycott. He just left UCLA right before I got there in 1982. He did hang around and train quite a bit at UCLA, saw him around, but I don't believe I ever got introduced to Willie. And as a young athlete at UCLA, I was definitely a little puppy dog and kind of scared of my own shadow and wasn't likely to go up and just brashly introduce myself the way I do now. I was trying to get people onto the podcast. So I never had a chance to talk with Willie. I just recently was talking with Lee Balkin, another former UCLA great, number 2 on the all-time list there. I jumped with both him and Del Davis, number 1 and number 2. I was number 4. So we had quite a good couple years there training and learning things. I learned a lot from them. I don't know if they learned anything from me, but I talked with Lee and he suggested Willie as a guest. And he told me that he's got a great story about Willie at the World Championships, National Championships in 1985, or the Worlds. I'm not sure which. I'll have to get the story straight. But apparently Willie called his world record, told Lee that he felt great after his first jump. He didn't tell just Lee, but he told a couple other people that he felt he was going to break the world record and went ahead and did so. Jumped 58.11 and a half, shattering the triple jump record at that time, which has since been broken and now stands close to 60 feet. But so those are Willie's claims to fame. We're going to find out about his track and field background, both high school and college. Before he was already elite when he was at UCLA, but even, I guess, more elite when he was done when being on the team, and then moving on to Olympic teams. I don't know if Willie has done any coaching. We'll find that out when he calls in. In the meanwhile, I want to preface a couple of comments and just standard things we've been talking about here on Raise the Bar, one of which has been the lack of interest in track and field here in the U.S. and worldwide. And Willie is intimately involved with trying to improve that situation. If you were to ask a lot of parents and kids and people that don't really have much of a track background, they might think that track and field is, pretty good here in the U.S. There's Junior Olympics every summer, 2 different versions. There is, high school, college, elite competition still going on. The United States is still one of the dominant powers in the world, maybe not as dominant as we've been in the past, but the showing at this last World Championships was pretty strong here in the U.S. So some people would say, well, track and field is doing just about as good as it's been. And we had a podcast a couple of weeks ago with Alan Hankel, my former coach and coach of Doug Nordquist, 7, 8 3/4. Doug Nordquist from the 1984 Olympic team here in the U.S. And Lauren Magnuson, who qualified for the trials back in 2016 and is currently doing some coaching work up at Chico State and occasionally down with Jeremy Fisher at the U.S. Olympic it's the U.S. Olympic Training Center. It's the center down in Chula Vista. And we spent quite a bit of time talking about, this the state of track and field, both in the U.S. and around the world. And the fact of the matter is, here in the U.S., that there's not that much interest. And when I'm saying interest, you say, well, there's lots of people doing track and field. Parents and athletes are doing it. There's coaches doing it. Not a lot of coaches at the high school and even at the higher levels. But there's some. And, you say, oh, there's 100 kids on the track team or whatever. It depends on the program. But when I was a kid growing up, I watched the Olympics on TV. 1976 is the first one that I really remember, and seeing Bruce Jenner win the decathlon, and watching the great U.S. Olympic boxing team, and I just loved all the sports. I was 12 years old and ate it up, like crazy. So it seems to me that we have kind of slid backwards. But we're going to talk to Willie about that. He's got some insights and some surprising revelations for us. So I'm going to let him in right now into the waiting room area, and make sure he's got his microphone on and all that good stuff. You're listening to me as my sound and technician crew, because I am the sound and technician crew. All right. I see his face. He's smiling. I haven't heard him yet.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Well, he is. There's the famous Willie Banks. I just did your send up. Got a few minutes to talk about you. So if your ears were burning, it was because I was telling everybody about many of your exploits. We were talking earlier, and then we decided to restart. So what we didn't get to last time, and we'll get back to the other stuff that we did, Willie, I was curious what your athletic background was as a kid growing up. We never talked about what you did in, youth sports and then high school that got you into UCLA.
So maybe I should start by explaining to everyone that when I was younger, they didn't have things like ADD, but I was quite hyper, and I had a lot of trouble in school early on because I cried a lot because I was very frustrated. I was one of those kids that stood up and was like, "Oh, I know, I know, I know," and
Uh-huh.
the teacher would have to get to the other kids, so would pass over me, and I would just get frustrated and start crying or something. So my parents took me to a psychiatrist. So what's wrong with this dumbass kid? and I went through a battery of tests, and the results of those tests just showed that I was just hyperactive. That's what they called it.
Right.
And so they told my parents to get me into different activities. And my father was a Marine. And so everything on the Marine Corps base in Camp Pendleton was pretty much either free or cost what, 25 cents, something like that. So it was very, very inexpensive. So they put me in golf, tennis, horseback riding, swimming. I would come home, I would be exhausted. And come to think of it, I mean, I just kind of mellowed out because I wasn't hyper anymore. Well, I was probably hyper, but I mellowed out quite a bit. And my parents saw that I would jump around. I mean, we even created a high jump pit in the neighbor's yard, and we would jump onto a, a mattress over these sticks with nails in it. But
All
we
right.
weren't very we weren't very bright, and so the nails were pointing out, and we put the bar on the outside of the standards, and when you'd hit it, the bars would fall on you at least the first time, and it hit me and clipped my cheek, and so I still have a scar from that. And so that's kind of the first my first impression of track and field was hurting myself on the high jump. Wasn't a very big fan. But then when I was in sixth grade, my best friend Billy, who I'm sorry, that was his brother's name was Billy, and his name was Randall, and he's the one who named me Willie because my name was William up until seventh grade, and then since he was my friend and called me Willie all the time, I became Willie.
Yeah.
He actually we actually went to a track meet and we competed in a track meet. I didn't even know what it was. So I competed in the 50, the long jump, and the high jump. And I took second in the high and third in the other two events. But I said, you know what? I like this. I get a ribbon and everything. It was
Right.
really exciting for me. And from then on, I started high jumping. And the reason why I high jumped was because when I was in junior high, one of the high schoolers came to my junior high. I went to Jefferson Junior High in Oceanside, California. And in Oceanside, there was a high jumper at the time back in the late 60s, early 70s. His name was Jerry Culp. And Jerry was one of the first high schoolers ever to jump 7 feet.
Wow.
So I didn't know it at the time, but he came down and he was talking to us about track and field and high jump, and he put the bar up and he showed how high it was. And I said, holy mackerel, I want to see this guy jump. Went to the high school to watch him jump. And they started the high jump. I was watching and I couldn't find him. I thought, oh crap, I came all the way up here and this guy's not even going to jump. After everyone went out, failed to make 6 feet, the judge walks over to this guy sitting on the ground with a hoodie over his head, and it was Jerry. And I was like, oh, what happened? Why didn't he jump? And then he stands up. The judge goes back over and puts it to, I think it was like 6'6" or 6'4". Jerry jumps over it with his sweats on. I said to myself, I want to be that cool. I want to be so cool. No one else can make even, within 4 inches of me, and I'm going to go up with my sweats on and just jump. And I decided to be a high jumper, and that's how I got in the high jump. And then high school, I started high jump. I got kicked off the team because I wouldn't high jump the way my coach wanted me to high jump. It took my mother to come back and force me to apologize to the coach to get me up. And then I started long jumping, hurdling. My junior year, I started the triple jump.
Wow.
And I didn't lose. I won the state meet my junior year. And then my senior year, I was undefeated, won the state meet. I went to Chicago. And let's see, I was 6'3", about 150 pounds. And there was a gust of wind. Every time the Windy City, I didn't know what it meant until I actually got up there and started jumping. And the wind was in our face, and I lost to this one guy. And I was so upset. I didn't know what to do because I was undefeated, right? So
Right.
then later on, I went to Golden West in California. It was a big meet, and I beat that guy really good. So, and
Okay.
almost a record. So that was good. That's
So
it. That was my high school background.
that was your high school background. Yeah, that's a great story. You got so you won the long triple jump twice. Did you
Yep.
make it to the state meet in the long and the high as well? Anything else
I
besides?
made it to the state meet in the long jump 3 times. My
Okay.
sophomore, junior, and senior year. The best I did was 6th place.
What was your best long jump in high school?
24 feet, 2 inches.
Okay, that's very strong. So when they recruited you at UCLA, did they give you the full ride right off the bat? They wanted you
Well,
there, and
it's funny, they recruited me hard, but I went on a California State scholarship. And then after I realized that, being on an athletic scholarship was a lot more fun, you got a lot more goodies. I switched over to a full ride, and I went full ride through my entire career at UCLA, and my law school was paid for by the NC2A. I guess it's called what is it called? The NC2A top 5 scholar athletes of the year.
wow,
And so I got scholarship to go to law school, and I went to UCLA Law School.
outrageous. So that takes you up through there. So you went to Oceanside down in San Diego, or kind of is that San Diego-ish? Is Oceanside considered San Diego, or is just close to San Diego?
No, it's North County, San Diego. San Diego County, Oceanside is the city.
Okay.
It's the second. It used to be the largest city in the county. Now I believe it's the second largest
Uh-huh.
population-wise.
And did you do any other sports other than track and field, or was that it?
I played basketball. I loved basketball. Boy, I
Yeah.
would play basketball all day long. I had one of those basketball Joneses. It was really crazy.
Gym rat, go to the gym, play for 3 to 4
Oh,
hours, that kind of thing.
go to the gym, play. Go to the playground, play. Come home, back the car out of the driveway, turn on the lights and play. I can't believe that I even did homework. I mean, all I wanted to do is play basketball.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you and a lot of the other great athletes, I keep telling people this, I think having young athletes come to you, especially nowadays, it seems like, and they're like, well, I don't really want to do this unless I'm going to win. And I'm like, okay, back it up.
Right,
I
right.
cannot guarantee you that you are going to win anything. You can be really, really good and not win, and it's just, it's not the way things roll out. But I've said this to a couple people just recently because it's just kind of stuck with me, is that when someone makes something look really, really easy, like they're so good and they're so polished, and you watch them, you go, oh my gosh, that just looks like the easiest thing in the world. I'm like, you have no idea how much time they have put into that. I mean, the people that are outrageously talented and don't have to work, there's a few of them, but they're so rare, and when you get that combination of talent and the work that goes behind it to perfect the craft, that's a whole nother level, you know.
It really is. I respect people so much when I see them doing what they do and looking, like you said, looking like it's just too easy for them.
Right. It's,
knowing
yeah,
knowing that they're always the first one in the gym or the first one on the track and the last one to leave. And
yeah,
that's what I did. I mean, I will never forget in 85, I would be the first one on the track and I would be the last one to leave. And I wouldn't just leave, I'd go to the gym
yeah,
and lift the weights and then I'd go home and I would get into jacuzzi and I would stretch. And I mean, it was a full-time 8-hour day of
right.
track. And that's when I broke the world record. And I realized that that's the kind of effort you have to put into
Yeah,
your
yeah,
craft in order to be good enough to be an elite athlete.
yeah. That's amazing. Um, we talked about this earlier, Willie, and you went to UCLA, and your coach was Tom Tellez, and we mentioned the fact that he took off shortly after that to go to Houston. And you talked about what a great coach Tom is, and Tom is still with us. I think he's living in Houston or somewhere in there. I talked with Larry Silva recently. He told me he had talked to him, but he's getting up there, right? He's getting older. So, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about that relationship, and then your relationship with Jim Bush, if there was anything like that. So, what were the relationships like with those two great coaches that you managed to get to work with both of them while you're at UCLA?
Well, of course, I had a much closer relationship with Tom Tellez because he was the assistant coach and he was my coach directly. Uh, Coach Bush was like the he was like the the Wizard of Oz. He was the big guy. He was the important guy. He was the man, and so I didn't get as much attention from him, or I didn't get as much. He wasn't really coaching me per se. So
Right.
it was a weird relationship, especially as a freshman. You come in and you're just a knucklehead. You don't know what's going on, right? But I was blessed in so many different ways. And one of the ways that I was blessed was my freshman year at UCLA. I just, it, Tom Tellez took me from being like Bambi to being a lion just like that in my freshman year. I went from jumping 24 feet 2 to jumping 26.8.
Wow.
I no 26 no 26.2, and then he took me from jumping 53 feet to jumping 55.1 and setting a
Wow.
national record. And so, and it all happened in one day against USC. And it's an interesting story. I don't know if we have enough time, but that really put my name on the map for the very first time.
Yeah.
And Tom Tellez actually he exemplified to me on that one day what a great coach is and how great he was.
Yeah.
In one instant, I didn't know it at the time, but when I look back at it, it was quite amazing. And we had this competition against USC, and as you know, it's a big thing for LA,
Oh, yeah.
UCLA, and it was at a time when there was this fictional national dual meet champion. That's when we had dual meets, team against team,
Right.
and both teams had Olympians and champion, NCAA champion. We had the best teams in the world, I thought, because so many had gone to Olympic Games. And I remember jumping in. I was entered in the long and the triple, and I did the long jump my first event. I wasn't a real good long jumper, as you know, and I just did it because they needed points. And I was jumping against the NCAA champion, the Olympic champion, Randy Williams, and so many other great athletes. And I was just stupid freshman, about 6'3", 155 now. And I jumped 26.2 and I won the competition in the long jump.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That's awesome.
And I just started because Tellez saw me jump once and he goes, "Where'd you learn that?" And I said, "I was just copying Jerry." And Jerry Herndon was a sophomore. I was just copying him, what he did. And he goes, "You come with me." And he taught me how to jump. So anyway, then the triple jump started and it was going back and forth. The meet was going back and forth between UCLA and USC. And at this time, track was pretty big, but it was never as big as this. We had 15,000 people in the stands. Well,
At
the
Drake or
stands
the
only have
Coliseum?
12,000, and then wrapped around the stadium, there was probably
Yeah.
another 3 or 4,000 people. It
Wow.
was absolutely unbelievable. The band was out, the cheerleaders were out, the Channel 5, was it Channel 5? Yeah, Channel 5, KTLA was out, and it was pandemonium. So they started triple jump, and again, I'm jumping against NC2A best. And so during the competition, we got down to the last competition, and the announcement comes over the loudspeaker. Willie Banks is up, and if he jumps beyond Tom Cochet, who was the USC athlete at the time, best athlete at the time, he'll win the meet. UCLA will win the meet if he can do that. And I get Tom, like 54 feet. And I was like, holy crap. Well, how am I going to do that? And
no pressure.
I went over to, no, Coach Bush comes over. And like I said, I hadn't really had a lot of, interactions with Coach Bush. And he says, "Well, son, you can win this, you can lose this one." And I'm like, holy crap, that's an amazing talk right there. The Wizard of Oz comes over and says this
Right.
stuff, gonna be good. And I thought, oh man. So I run over to Coach Tellez. I say, "Coach, what do I do?" And here is something that if you're a coach, this is probably the smartest thing you can do to a kid who's in a tough situation. He looked at me, no smile, no nothing. He said, "Do what you do in practice." And he turned around and he walked away. I was like, are you
right?
What kind of coaching is that? Bush did something better than you did. At least he scared the crap out of me. So I walk back up and I'm standing at the top of the runway, and they break into the A clap, the UCLA clap.
Right.
And the band is going. I look over and people are yelling, and I look over and I see my hero at the time, O.J. Simpson, saying, "You'll never make it."
Oh no.
Holy crap. This is a rough situation I'm in. But I just stood there. I said a quick prayer and I just took off. I couldn't feel a thing. I couldn't hear a thing. I just jumped, hop, skip, jump, and I landed. And all of a sudden I could hear and see, and it was like, that was a good jump. I ran over to the board, and they kept pulling and pulling and pulling. 54, 54 6, 55, 55 1. Holy crap. We won the track meet on that jump.
Wow.
It was stupid. And this was that day. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it.
It's coming in and out of focus.
Yeah, it is a bit out of focus, isn't it?
Well, maybe a little bit farther back.
I don't know if it's the farther back.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Anyway, you can see me.
I see that picture. Yeah.
With
that's awesome. Imagine
the,
going 55 feet. Now that was a national record at that time. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was a national record, junior record.
The collegiate record or just
junior and collegiate record.
Wow.
So that was a big time for me. It was so awesome. I was running for political office at the time.
Really?
Yeah, for the school, and I was elected in a landslide. And
smart time to run.
Right? Huh?
Smart time to run right after winning.
Oh gosh, everything lined up. I tell you, there's probably no one on earth has been more blessed than me with things like that. So that was a special time at UCLA for me, and it took me all the way through UCLA. I was always one of the, I was picked as team captain. I was always given a lot of leeway for being a knucklehead, and really enjoyed my stay. Met so many great athletes. So UCLA is a special place. It really is in terms of athletics. And
amen. Yeah, I've just actually started up a special edition of the Raise the Bar podcast with our focus on UCLA athletes like yourself. So I'm trying to get others. So I'm really hopeful now that you've done one to get, say, Mike Powell.
Mike.
I tried, Lee Balkin. Lee's kind of shy. I need to get in touch with Del Davis. I haven't talked to Del in 35 years since I jumped with him. But there's
I have a bunch of guys that you can talk to. I mean, J.O., James Owens, he's around.
Wow.
James Butts is around. We have a get together of the old guys, the OGs, I guess. Both UCLA and USC, we all get together on a Zoom call from time to time. And it's like, I don't know, there's maybe 40 or 50 of us, and we're just yelling at each other and telling old stories. And it's awesome. The greatest. So I can put you in touch with Gordon Peppers, who's the guy who runs it.
Oh, that's
he
great.
Has everybody's phone numbers, everybody's emails. I mean, Chico Freeman. Milan Tiff is probably the greatest speaker in the entire world. I mean, he's just an amazing athlete and an amazing artist, an amazing talker. He's just wacko crazy, and I love him. So you might want to get with him. There's tons, and there's basketball players.
Yeah.
We can get in touch with there's all kinds of guys. So yeah.
Yeah, we got to keep this network growing, because I have a friend of mine, Rodney Van Jr., played football back he was on the 2004 team when Carl Durrell was coach, and we got Maurice Jones-Drew to come and do one. So that was a big land, and I'm like, please tell me you're going to meet Ken Norton Jr., because I am like one of the biggest Ken Norton Jr. fans ever, just because I was a huge boxing fan when I was a kid, and I watched his dad fight Muhammad Ali, right, and beat him 2 different times, break his jaw and all that stuff. And then, of course, he comes to UCLA and plays great and goes off into the pros and wins Super Bowls. And Maurice talked about the fact that he came to UCLA first looking for a job, and Durrell said, "We don't need you." And he went over to SC, and the rest was history, right? National championships, and followed Pete up to Seattle and all that. So, but that's another story. But that's the UCLA connection. We mentioned this before too. Now, you made 3 Olympic teams, which is a rarefied air. It's not unheard of, but it's also not common. And you said, and of course everybody knows, in 1980 we had a boycott. So can you explain to everybody what was that like to train that hard and to make an Olympic team and just have that rug pulled out from under your feet?
Well, let me start in 76 because I jumped in 76 and I nearly made the team that time. I was that was going to be in Montreal. So my parents, they took a loan out on the house and bought a car and a trailer, and they pulled that trailer up to Canada, and they were so excited for me. And I went to Eugene to compete in the Olympic trials. I was in third place going into the last round, and Dupree jumped an inch further than I did, and I became an alternate, which means you're going to sit in your. It's the worst place position to be in.
Right.
And I remember calling my father up, and I said, "Hey, Dad, well, I did the best I could, and I came in fourth, so I won't be going to Montreal." My dad, the Marine, he's like, "Well, son, I'm glad you did the best you could. See ya. We're off to Montreal."
We're
So
going anyway.
everybody in my family went, and I sat at home. I sat in my apartment, just like depressed. And
Yeah.
I vowed though I was going to make that 80 team and win a gold medal. And then in 1980, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, and President Carter didn't know what else to do but to boycott the Moscow Olympic Games, dumbass.
Yeah.
And so I wound up sitting again watching on TV whenever you get it in the United States. And then but I won the Olympic trials by a foot, and I was in the best condition. In fact, I had set an indoor record, and at the end of it, I was ranked number two only because I couldn't go to the Olympic Games and win the games. The guy who won the gold medal there was ranked number one in the world. So that was disheartening, but I swore up and down I'd make the 84 team, and I did. I made it, but I was injured. Making it, as an injured athlete, it's really hard. I still competed. I finished sixth. I was so depressed. I just went to a hotel room to check out for a while, and I was crying like a baby. And all of a sudden, I felt myself, just kind of in a dream, and it felt like I was being talked to by God. And it was like, you've got more to do than just win a gold medal. The world record is just hanging there.
Right.
And I was like, right. So I decided that's what I was going to do. I was going to try and break a world record because, 88 seems so far away. 4 years is a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so I checked out of the hotel. I went back to the Olympic Stadium, and I was actually a color commentator for ABC Radio. And
Really?
I was so happy. Yeah.
Great.
And at that Olympic Games was the first time they had email. First time.
Wow.
You could go onto a terminal and write a note and leave it for another person. That was the first time I'd ever seen it. First time in, the United States. Well, I'm sure they had it, but that was the first time that I'd ever seen it. First time most people ever seen. You just write a note and you leave it, and you come back and someone will write you a note, and it's like, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
So I did that for a while, and then afterwards I started training for that world record. And then we can talk about that or talk about something else. I'll tell you the story about that one as well.
Oh man, that's I love that setup. I got a text. We were talking about Lee Balkin, and he told me to ask you about the story because he said he remembered in '85 when he was competing in the high jump. Now this at Indianapolis, that was our national championships, like not
Right.
collegiate, but the next step up.
The senior national
Was that the TAC meet? Was that the Athletic Congress? That one, right?
Yeah.
I remember that. Okay, so at that meet, after one jump, you said you felt the world record was within reach. You had a great warm up and a great first jump, and you actually told Lee and a couple other people that you were getting ready to break the world record.
Yeah,
so tell us how that shaked out.
So it's just like you said. I remember going down. I fouled actually my first jump, but it was so easy. I was like, oh my God, if I put any effort into this is going to be amazing. And I remember going back and put my sweats on, and I always like to listen to music, and I was, bobbing and weaving and doing my little thing. And then all of a sudden I closed my eyes. I watched myself do the triple jump, and it's like God was telling me I was going to break the world record. That's when I went over to Lee and said, Lee, guess what? I'm going to break the world record. And I'm sure Lee in his mind is like, well, Willie's lost it. And I went over and told a couple other people, and I told the judge, man, make sure you get this because this is going to be a world record. And of course, he thought I was nuts too. So I stood at the top of the runway and I just ran. No need to prepare because I knew I was going to break the world record. I just ran down, took a hop, a skip, a jump, and landed right near the world record, but past it. And I was like, raised my fist immediately as I came down. I mean, as I landed, I raised my fist and jumped around because I knew it was a world record. And when I came back, they confirmed it. And I was like, see, Lee, I told you.
Right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when you finally retired, because we talked about all the great things you've accomplished, and did you make the 88 team also?
I did. I did. I made the 88 team. And I actually made the 88 team with a jump of 59 feet 8 or something like that. It was 18 meters 20, but it was wind dated. It was the furthest anyone had ever jumped, wind dated or not, ever. And I did 3 over 18 meters, which was like 3 over 59 feet.
Yeah.
That day, and I was jumping like crazy. The next day I got up and my Achilles had locked up, and
Wow.
that was it. So I did everything possible to try and loosen them up. I got there, and once again I finished 6th in the Olympic Games in Seoul. And then I took a bunch of surgeries. I went over to Japan to live for a while and train and coach, and I came back and tried to make the 92 games, and nope, not even close. So
Yeah.
I hung it up after that, but I never, I was, I was never disappointed with what I had accomplished in track and field. It had been such a wonderful experience, and it gave me everything. I mean, track and field has given me everything and continues to give me so much. It's
Yeah.
just amazing. How can anyone be blessed like this? I've got, I met my wife, and I got my house. Everything, came from the money and the experience and the contacts and the network that I created as a triple jumper. And I haven't even told you that story. So.
Well, let's hear it. How did that come around? You said you started off as a long jumper and even a high jump. So the triple jump, in my opinion, and we don't talk about this much on the podcast because I was a high jumper and I got trained at the end of my career by little Baru Elias out at Long Beach City, who was.
I know Elias.
I know you know Elias. He was a really good technician, and I learned a lot of things from him. But there was not one time after we did, because he would have us do triple jump bounding, and there wasn't one time he came to me and said, you've missed your calling as a high jumper. You should be a triple jumper. That was not an issue. And I personally think it is one of the most difficult technical events that have been created. So how'd you get roped into being a triple jumper?
Well, I got to tell you, the triple jump was like, once again, God created an event, and then he created me for that event, I think.
Yeah.
Because it just fit me like a glove. My junior year, they introduced it. I ran down, I took a hop, skip, and a jump. And I did that long hop, short step, and then big jump. And my history teacher said, Willie, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, they introduced this new event called a triple jump, and I'm the best in the school. He goes, well, maybe I'll come out and watch, and maybe I can give you some pointers. And he must have been 50 something, right? And I looked at him like, oh man, I just told you I'm the best in the school. What is a history teacher going to teach me? And he said, no, really. I was the NC2A champion in 1944, 45 and 46. And I was this and I was that. I would have made the Olympic team, but the war and all this. And I said, oh, okay. So he came out and he actually showed me how to do the real triple jump with a long middle step. And so after that, there was they had to, every school had to dig the pit out an additional 5 feet because of how I was jumping.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And it was insane. And I I was just good. I mean, I set the Mount Sac relays record, and I won the state meet. I won the twice, my
Yeah.
junior and senior year. And then I told you a little bit about my UCLA experience, but really, what made me a famous, I guess, what made me famous outside of Los Angeles was a meet in Stockholm in 1981. 1981, I had just set the national record in the triple jump. And I thought I was the baddest thing on earth because no one had jumped that far. And I was like, wow, I'm going to win everything. I'm going to get rich in Europe because they have to pay me. I went over there to Europe with my manager and I said, man, you go in there and you cut some deals like crazy. He came out, he walked up to me and he said, hey, I got some good news and bad news. And I said, how can there be, tell me the bad news. And he said, well, the bad news is there aren't any triple jumps after this one here in Stockholm. And I said, how can there not be? Well, how in the hell is there any good news? He goes, well, I got you a long jump in Lausanne after the Stockholm meet. And I'm looking at him like, are you crazy? So I was pissed. I said, I went into the room. Athletes aren't really allowed in there. It's just the meet promoters who are, doing all the negotiating. And I went up to the biggest meet organizer in Europe, Andy Norman. He was a retired cop, big dude, mean as hell, cursed like a sailor. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, I understand you're not having the triple jump. What's wrong with you? And he sat back and he put his arm up and he looked at me and he cocked his head and he said, listen here. Let me ask you something. Why in the hell would I have you come to my meet and I pay you to come to my meet when nobody is coming to my meet to watch you? No one's even coming to watch the triple jump. The triple jump is not exciting. So now get the hell out of it.
Wow.
A light bulb went off and I was like, holy crap, he's right. I can jump all I want, but if no one's coming to watch me, who the hell cares?
Right.
I'm jumping. So I went to my room, sat there. I got up and I was so upset. I went to the meet. I went to the stadium early. There wasn't a lot of people there. And I was just warming up. And I was one of the first ones to wear a headphone. And I had like the recording device. It's they call it a Walkman. I don't know. You may.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now nobody else does.
To have that. And I was walking around. I mean, I was jogging around with this thing and I played this instrumental, not just Knee Deep by Parliament Funkadelic. And they had a great guitar instrumental that I solo that I recorded over and over and over and over again. And this thing just got me hyped. And so when people started coming and they finally started the triple jump, I was like, we got to do something, guys. So when they brought all the guys together, I said, listen, we got to do something. They're not going to have the triple jump this year anywhere this summer because they think it's boring. We're going to show them just how exciting and fantastic the triple jump is. We're going to break national records. We're going to do, maybe we can break a world record. I don't know. Let's just get out here and show them how fun. There was probably 13 guys in the meet. The first 8 guys had to have fouled. I thought I was going to have to shoot myself in the head. It was so boring. I just laid there and I was like, no, oh no, we're never going to get it. So then it got to be my turn. And I had my headphones on, took my headphones off, my top off. And when I pulled down my pants, these 5 drunk Swedes, because you could drink there,
Right.
They were having a good time. I looked up, they were like, over there laughing. And I took my sweats off and someone, and I was like, what? seriously? Trying to ruin my concentration. Not gonna happen. So what I usually do is I would stand up, clap my hands 3 times, shake my fist 3 times, and go. That was my usual routine. You know, everybody has their own routine. So I clapped my hands 3 times, and these 5 drunk Swedes, they clapped their hands about 3 times. I looked over like, I'm concentrating here. Clap my hands 3 times. They clapped their hands 3 times. I looked at them again, and I just go, okay, whatever. Clap my hands 3 times. Shift my flicks. They shift my fist. They clapped their hands 3 times, and I ran. I took a hop, a skip, a jump. I jumped like 54.8 or something like that. And at the time, that was going to lead the competition, and it was a pretty good jump, right? My best jump in college was 55.1, as I told you, which was like
Right.
1688. So maybe I jumped 1650 or 1660 or something like that. And I came back, and those 5 guys were like clapping. And some people around them were clapping. And I go, okay, I put my headphones on, and I usually dance and stretch. So I danced and stretched, and people were looking and laughing and pointing. And I didn't care because I was into me. When it was my turn, you know, all the foulers went by, and then it was my turn. They started, that whole section started clapping. And I was like, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? I was like, okay. I clapped my hands 3 times, shake my fist, and I ran down and I jumped 55.1. And that was a better jump. I came back and everybody was clapping. And so then I got into it. I was like, okay, I'll get into this. And I jumped further. And then after my 3rd jump, I told the meet promoter to put a flag at each one of the big marks, you know, the Swedish record, the European record, the world record. So he did. And then I thought I jumped. I got pretty close. On my 5th jump, I decided I'm going to break the world record. I rolled down there as fast as I could. I took a hop, a skip, a jump. I landed right at the world record. I jump up, my hands, and the red flag starts to go. But the guy is shaking because he knew what was coming. The whistles, the jeers, the no ways, yelling at him, right? And he's shaking, and I go, no way, knowing I had fouled. I knew I had fouled. You could feel it. And the plastic was like, you could see it from Mars. And I got on my hands and knees. I looked down and I looked up at him. I said, okay, you caught me. Waved to the audience. And I went back, put my headphones on and sweat. And I'd always seen these stinking distance runners, you know, they always get to run around, take a lap, right?
Victory lap, yeah.
Victory lap. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it before I win the damn gum competition, because after I win, they're going to shuttle me off.
Right.
So I put my headphones on. I started slowly jogging on the inside of the track, around the track. And every section I came to, people would clap, stand up, and sit down. The first wave in track and field.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was below where I got back. It was my turn. I took my headphones off, took my top off, pulled my pants down, and all of a sudden I'm standing at the top of the runway with my hands out, and I go, and you could just hear, and people are just standing and clapping, and I'm standing on the edge, like on my toenails, right? I'm just standing, run. And I ran as fast as I could, hop, skip, jump. I land very close to the world record, splash. I jump up, people come out of the stands, they grab me, they're carrying me around, they give me a microphone, and that was a mistake, as you can tell, because I can talk all day. And I'm talking, I don't even know what I said, something about my mom and my dad. And so after it all died down, after all the pandemonium went away, I walked over to where all the meet organizers were. And I walked up to that big cop, and I looked at him, and I rubbed my fingernails on my shirt, blue, and I said, so what do you think? And he said, if you do that, you're going to come to my meet.
Right.
And he lived up to the promise. Everywhere, anytime he had a track meet, I was the star of the show. And he made me famous, and he made me a very rich man. So I love that guy, Andy Norman. Now, you remember there was this guy who used to say, and the rest of the story? Do you remember him? He's an old radio commentator. And he'd always, I forget his name, but he'd always go, and now the rest of the story. So remember, I had told you there was good and bad news. The good news was he had a meet in Lausanne. So I went down to Lausanne to compete, and I'm not a long jumper, as you know, even though I long jumped good. So I was competing, and after about the third jump, I was jumped about 24 feet or something. And I was feeling like, oh, this is horrible. I want to quit. And someone, as I stood up for my fourth jump, someone yelled, well, come on, Willie. And I turned to the audience and I put my hands up like, what do you mean, come on? And all of a sudden everybody goes,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I ran, I jumped 8:11, which, you know, was like a record, a Swiss record. And it was a big time jump. It was, you know, probably the best jump of the season. And it definitely was my best jump ever. That's 26.8 1/2. And I was like, holy crap. And from that meet on, everywhere I went, whenever I came to the stadium, people would clap. And it wasn't just when I stood at the top of the runway. I remember coming into Berlin Stadium with 60,000 people stadium. I came down the tunnel, and I came out, and all of a sudden people saw me, and all of a sudden 60,000 people like,
Wow.
and from that, it was just, I loved it everywhere I went. Now people still do the clap. In fact, in Finland they call it the banks. But
Yeah.
people don't know the power of it. I mean, it was powerful. It still is, I guess.
Yeah.
That's my claim to fame. I gave track and field a clap.
Gave him the clap. I love it. It's a great showmanship tool, like you said. It's a great attention grabber. You know, without hasn't I don't know if it was cocky or not on your part, but you know, nowadays I see it a lot of times is really motivational. Like if someone needs that big push, you know, you'll see them, you know, they start doing this, and the crowd will usually comply. It depends. It's got to be a bigger crowd, and a bigger event helps, right?
Right.
I see it, you know, coaching. This last year was my first year at the NAIA level at Vanguard University, and there'd be like 6 people watching the triple jump, and you know, one of the kids would start going like this, and so 4 of them would start clapping, and darn if they wouldn't jump farther, you know, than
and see,
with only 4 people clapping, you know.
Well, the problem is people don't understand what it is. I mean, yeah, it's motivational and it can be, but you have to control it. And I didn't start it as a cocky thing, but some athletes thought that. I mean, I had guys call me out and wanted to beat the crap out of me. And I look at them and I say, listen, you stupid idiot. If we're not doing this, they're not going to have the triple jump. Right. So you either jump on board or we're not going to have the triple jump. And finally people started to understand. Yeah. You know? You have to be entertained. Track and field. Listen, you know, you want to know why track and field has had a hard time? It's because we don't understand what it is. Yeah. Track and field is not competing against basketball. It's not competing against golf. It's not competing against any sport. It's competing against wherever I'm going to spend my dollar. I can go to the movies. I can go to track meet. I can go out to dinner. I can go to track meet. I can do so many things with this dollar. Why would I go to track meet? Yeah. If it's not entertaining me. Yep. Why was it popular back in the day? Because we had entertainers. Dwight Stones, Mac Wilkins, Prefontaine, people who had a story and entertained. Do you think I took this thing and understood it? I didn't take it and understand it at first. But when I was younger and I saw what Dwight did, and then when it happened to me, I didn't do it on purpose. It just happened, right? I understood. I go, that's what Dwight did. But Dwight calmed the crowd. He's shh, and everybody was quiet. And I was like, that is bad as hell. To be able to control the crowd. Right. Entertaining. That's how he got paid. Yeah. Me, I went the opposite. It was the clap. And at first I was like, what was, what, huh? Okay, I'm gonna jump. But then I remembered Dwight shut him down. So I would go out and I would start to clap. I wouldn't even have to put my hands up. The minute I stood up, people were clapping. So I could go like this and they'd go harder. And go like this and go. I would start sometimes, and if they were off timing, I would stumble and I'd look at them like, no, and it would be funny,
Yeah.
right? It's just fun. People want to go. I had kids telling their parents, I want to go see Willie Banks jump. And the kid has, and kids kind of rule their parents, right?
Yeah.
All the time, people would tell me, my kid forced me to go to track meets to see you do. And that's what our sport should be, entertainment. But they think, oh no, it's a job. It's not a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. You better learn how to entertain because you're doing a hell of a job of it. And so we need to build the stories, and we need to. I've always thought maybe we need a producer and a director to direct it. Maybe
Right.
not world and national championships, but definitely these stupid meets that everybody goes to. I mean,
Yeah.
how interesting is it?
Yeah. Well,
And I'm a track guy.
right. That brings us to the last topic if we have time, we can cover. We had mentioned this before, and it's come up, and you just mentioned it, and I know that I did a little intro at the beginning when you were still coming on, but this whole issue of, is anybody really watching track and field anymore? Because like you said, Americans, our dollars can be spent many different places. And here in LA, for instance, it's like, oh my gosh, you've got two football teams, you got two baseball teams, you've got, basketball teams, you've got college, and now UCLA is joining the Big Ten, and so is SC, and you can do anything.
Yep.
You can go golf at all these different places. So like you said, what is going to make someone watch TV? Now, when I was a senior at UCLA, they started showing the track meets on Prime Ticket in 1986, right? They filmed our meet, and we were so excited. The cameras are out there. We're watching this meet. We're going against Cal in the rain.
Right.
We beat them.
Right.
Mike Powell, the world record holder in the long jump, came over and high jumped with us, and we swept them, went 1, 2, 3 in the rain.
Yeah.
And their coach even wrote in the article, he said, we thought if anybody's going to sweep the high jump, it would have been us. And so we're just like stoked because we're like, oh, we're going to see this on TV. So we watch it on Prime Ticket, and there's no field events. They don't show one field event. They don't even show who won the field event. So I didn't get to see my name up there for first place in the high jump, and neither did any of the other field athletes. And then they showed every lap of the men's 10,000. Every lap, those guys were talking for a half an hour, and they were thinking up stuff to talk to each other about. They're like, so how are your kids doing, Bill? He's like, yeah, well, the one kid's, he's like Willie Banks. He's got ADD. What can I do?
Yeah, exactly.
So they're just talking about whatever to fill the airtime, and I'm like, okay, this is horrible. This is the worst idea ever. And like you said it, I've said it before, like, get me a producer from the NFL truck, the guy that's got all the cameras, right? And you've got a camera everywhere. I mean, track is the ultimate sport for there's always something going on. So you have all these cameras, and you've got a guy in the truck going, okay, go to camera 1. There's Willie. Willie's clapping. He's getting ready to take his third jump. Never know what's going to happen with Willie. Let's check in. You take your jump. They go crazy, and they go, okay, now let's go over to the shot put ring, because I got to watch, John Brenner in '84 when I was a sophomore.
Right.
Breaking records all the time, wins Pac-10s and NC2As, both shot and disc, trying to make the Olympic team. I mean, there's, like you said, just fantastic athletes. They're everywhere, but nobody knows how to produce it. Nobody knows how to put on the show, like you said. I mean, and these guys are great athletes, but they weren't necessarily showmen, and I think at the college level, it's a little bit harder, probably a little bit easier now, because in the day and age that we live in, everybody's more about, hey, what about me? And we've got NIL deals, right, and all that, but still not much in the way of track and field that way. So I'm thinking we got to get a product, like you said, that people want to watch, and that takes personalities. It takes great athletes. It takes a little bit of showmanship, right? And some people that understand how to put on a good show. It's like, it shouldn't be that hard,
You got it. And
just be the Olympics.
So I'm gonna tell you another quick story. I've helped a lot of athletes, to figure out what it is that they can do. And there was, I'm gonna tell you about the tennis players. Maybe that's the best way to do it. After I'd retired and everything, and I was going back and forth to Japan doing some work. I own a business there, and I was sitting next to these two guys. One guy had a big floppy hat. We're on the airplane, and the other guy was just kind of sitting there. And I started talking to the guy, and what do you do? I said, did I do this? And I used to triple jump out in the world record. At the time, I was world record holder in triple jump. He goes, oh wow, that's cool. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, we're tennis players. And I go, oh, okay. So I told him the story about the clap and all that. And they go, oh my God, that is awesome. They said, can you help us? And I said, what have you done? Well, we're just kind of getting started. We're pretty good. We're one of the best in the world. And I go, okay, well, you know what? When you do something, you give me a call and I'll help you. So they go, okay. Took our number. About 6 months later, I get this call. And the guy goes, Willie. And I said, yeah. He goes, it's me, it's Luke. And I go, yeah. And he goes, we did it. I said, what'd you do? We won the French Open.
Nice.
Can you help us now? And I said, oh, okay. Luke Jensen and his brother.
Right.
And so they come up. So I said, where's your next competition? He goes, it's in Carmel. I said, okay. So I said, now listen, here's the deal, man. You can't just be tennis players. That's not going to work. Nobody cares.
Right.
Everybody's a tennis player. I could play tennis.
Yeah.
So I said, so here's what we're going to do. So I got my friends Harley Davidson. And I had them ride the damn Harley Davidson onto the tennis court. And I had the one guy, he was really good looking, floppy hat, he was really good looking, his brother. Cannot remember his name right now. But anyway, he came in with this woman on the back, and we had, it was just crazy, right? It was crazy sick. And then Luke could play with either hand. And so I had the announcer call him dual hand Luke.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Dual hand Luke. Yep.
And it was like
dual hand Luke.
People loved it. The whole thing was crazy town, right? Those guys got rich, never won another thing. And I said, I did the same thing with other athletes. I told them, look, you don't be an athlete. You talk about all these athletes. All they did was throw, jump, and run. Who the hell cares?
Right.
I can do that right now. Everybody can do that, right? How do you set yourself apart? How do you make it so people go, I got to see that guy? Yeah. If you continue to set world records like our shot shooters do, right? That people will go see.
Yeah.
But you can only do that
for so long. Yeah.
Then that stuff dies. Man, I had a long career and I didn't do but one thing. I broke the world record, 10 years. I had the world record. And all I did after that was just, I never won a gold medal, never won a world championship, but I was getting paid much more than anybody else.
Yeah.
So it was just the clap, and it was the entertainment, it was bringing kids out on the stands out of the stands and bringing them, having fun out there. Just make it fun for people. Make it interesting.
Yeah.
And we're too into track. I think track is too into track.
Yeah.
And not into entertaining the entertainment of track. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We want you to do your best. But what if after you throw, you go over to somebody and say, beat me.
Right.
MF, or something.
Yeah.
And that guy throws.
Yeah.
He goes to you. I beat you. Now what you gonna do, chump?
Yeah.
And now you got something.
Yep.
People want to see that. I used to do that with my buddy Mike. He wasn't getting paid all that much, but I said, well, come with me. We can have a show. Yeah. And I would jump and he would go further and he'd come up and he was the bad guy and he would kick sand in my face. I'd beat him. And then, people had to see. They loved it. It was a show. It wasn't just, okay, they jumped. Yay.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So that's how you get paid. Yeah. Okay, you can get paid now by winning. But if you want to get paid, you gotta be entertaining. Look at even the fastest man on the world. He did things that no one else had ever done, and he did it in such an awesome way.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt. But it wasn't just winning. he did the whole bolt thing. He
Right.
was fun. He wasn't afraid to be entertaining.
Yes.
So that's what we have to convince people to do. Even if you're shy, to show your shyness, damn it.
Yeah.
People don't just walk off the field.
Right.
Be shy. Let
Yeah.
people know how shy you are. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking with it.
I like that. I think back to Flojo. Flojo was one of
Right,
the first ones who was all about, how she looked, right? She was
right.
into
And
nails and
she was
hair and
super shy.
yeah,
Super shy. You
yeah,
never see her out running around. She was always in the background, but she wore those nails and all this. Oh, she was beautiful, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
And
anyway,
put on the
that
show.
that's
Yeah,
important. That is important. And people see that and they want to know. They want to see that person. So don't just make it a sport. Make it a sport at the World Championship. Make it a
right.
sport because that's when track and field people gather to celebrate track and field. But when a meet organizer is trying to make enough money to pay you and to pay the TV and to pay all these expenses,
Yeah.
please don't just come out there, jump, run, and throw and walk away. That's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that advice. I keep thinking of like we said, getting the producers and everything behind it. You got to have some personalities and know what they're doing. Think think to the greats. Muhammad Ali was one of
Yeah.
the first boxers who started doing his own poetry and doing his rhymes and just going crazy. And people either loved him or hated him. But
That's okay.
it was
Hate
one or
is
the other.
good.
Exactly.
Hate is
Everybody
good.
wanted to watch him fight. You either wanted to watch
Yeah.
him win or lose, right? But you were going to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that you've got that. I keep thinking I'm watching American Ninja,
Yeah.
Warriors. And I
Yep.
go, how can that show get
Right.
more people watching it than what we got? And the athletes are incredible. I'm not taking anything away from them. And I think the thing they've got going there is the stories. And like you said, the personalities. There's not only just the stories behind the athletes, but then they stand up and do kind of crazy things while the camera's on them, right? And it just kind of lends itself to that. Like you said, it's TV.
Yeah.
It's great TV. Well, hey Willie, I know it's been a long haul here. We did a lot of good stuff. I want to thank you so much for your time. I'm just sitting here basking. This is awesome. I really taking the time and sharing your experiences with us and your ideas for resurrecting the sport that we both love. And let's get you in charge. I want to Willie Banks for president of the resurrection of track and field. So I like that idea. Alan and I, like I said, Alan Hankel and I talked with Lauren Magnuson from Chico State, and we had my first 3-person podcast that was planned, and we went on for about an hour about that. How do we go about this? And we're thinking about forming committees and this and that. I think we got the wrong point person. So all right. Well, hey, thanks again, Willie. And hopefully we can do this again sometime
Sure.
and talk
Sure.
about the great state of track and field since we got 6 years, right, till the big
That's
show
right.
here in LA.
That's
So
right.
hoping for great things. Congratulations on your world record
Thank
in both the triple and the high jump. Which age groups do you have now on that one? Before we
Well, 65.
65, and you
Yeah.
jumped 6 feet. I heard it at
Well, that was 55. 55
55.
older, I think, was the 6 feet one or 60. I don't remember now.
Okay.
I don't keep a lot of track of it because it's just masters, but I love it. But
Yeah.
important thing is I'm out there and I'm enjoying it and having fun
Hey,
and
you're putting on a show, I bet.
putting on a show.
All right, Willie. Well, hey, God bless you, man. Thanks for your time, and we'll do it again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Enjoy.
right. All
All
right.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
You too.
All right, Joy.
All right. And that is the great Willie Banks. We're signing off here on Sky High and Fly podcast, the Sky High and Fly Jump Camps podcast called Raise the Bar. Willie Banks is with us. Please listen to us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We're on many platforms. We're on YouTube. We'll get Willie's face on that one. We've got both the video and the audio. So check back in with us here on Raise the Bar. And that's it. Thanks, Willie. God bless.
All right, take care, Troy.
See ya.